Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a terrifying cinematic what-if scenario, one that exposes just how deeply fragile our hyper-connected world actually is. Think about it. What happens when the greatest threat to global security isn't a physical missile but a hidden digital weakness? We're going to explore a scenario where the fear isn't about physical bombs, but a single, silent vulnerability inside a digital system that literally the entire planet depends on. So, what if Iran hacked America's nuclear arsenal? Okay, let's dive right into this highly improbable but absolutely consequential question. Now, before we go any further, let's be crystal clear. The real world has massive, robust layers of protection, air gapping, and human oversight built around nuclear systems, precisely because the consequences of a failure are, well, unthinkable. But as an analytical exercise, this scenario acts as a powerful warning. It forces us to ask, what happens if a nation that's already capable of disrupting banks and pipelines through code suddenly targets the ultimate deterrent? It instantly shifts the battlefield from physical explosions to sheer digital uncertainty. Which brings us to part one, the silent cyber siege, when the unthinkable begins without a sound. You see, our expectations of conflict are entirely upended here. Traditional nuclear war, it's marked by sirens, explosions, and smoke, unmistakable signs of aggression. A cyber siege, however, gives you none of that. Instead of a physical crater, the attack is marked by the silence between words. It's a completely invisible disruption that defies literally every military drill ever conceived. It starts small, right? A communication delay, a verification mismatch, maybe an alert pattern that just doesn't quite fit. Imagine the sheer panic of an unexpectedly corrupted file on your work computer before a big presentation. But scale that feeling up to the most dangerous weapons on Earth. Suddenly, highly trained personnel are staring at monitors realizing something is catastrophically wrong. The true horror isn't even that weapons are firing. It's that they can't immediately prove the weapons aren't about to. Every single second becomes incredibly expensive, and every unanswered phone call becomes highly suspicious. Moving into Section 2, Washington's Nightmare of Uncertainty, the dilemma inside the chain of command. The crucial point here is that in this scenario, doubt itself becomes the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. The attackers wouldn't even need to launch a single physical missile. Their whole objective is just to force decision-makers sitting in highly classified underground rooms to question the integrity of their own house. Are they looking at a real compromise, or is it just a false signal designed to scare the world into absolute chaos? And when dealing with nuclear systems, guesswork is obviously unacceptable. The immediate military instinct, the stated protocol, is to isolate the system, verify the threat, and protect the assets. But taking that very first step creates a massive operational paradox. It's kind of like pulling the main power breaker to your house because you heard a strange noise in the basement. Sure, you're safe from an electrical fire, but now you're sitting in the pitch dark with whatever made that noise. So what happens when isolation itself creates blind spots? It makes it infinitely harder to confirm what's actually real. This impossible paradox forces commanders right into a corner. The better you protect a system by cutting it off from the outside world, the more difficult it becomes to see if that system is already infected. Leaders have to balance extreme caution against the need for absolute certainty, and in a crisis where one mistake means global humiliation and another could literally rewrite human history, blind spots aren't just small errors, they are existential risks. This takes us to Section 3, Geopolitical Shock and Reaction, the Global Standoff and the Problem of Attribution. Zooming out, the strategic reactions across the globe would be immediate and volatile. Washington naturally demands proof while weighing military or cyber retaliation. Tehran likely denies responsibility outright, framing the whole accusation as Western propaganda. Meanwhile, NATO is scrambling into intense, emergency consultations to prevent a catastrophic misunderstanding. And China and Russia? They'd likely call for stability and very carefully measure language to preserve their own strategic interests. The whole world essentially freezes, caught between the fear of the attack itself and the fear of a rapid, devastating retaliation. In the age of digital warfare, attribution, figuring out exactly who launched the hack, isn't just a technical problem. It is a trigger. Pulling that trigger based on fragments of digital truth could ignite a chain reaction way faster than traditional diplomacy can handle. Even if parts of the story are true and others are false, the messy reality of cyber conflict is that truth arrives in pieces, and those pieces can easily trigger a war before anyone fully understands what's going on. Let's look at Section 4, Panic in the Public Sphere, Information Fragments and Market Chaos. Because as this is happening, the public wouldn't hear the full truth right away. They'd hear terrifying out-of-context fragments, a spokesperson saying, anomalies detected, a leak mentioning networks isolated as a precaution. The average person might not know the technical jargon, but these vague phrases would spread like gasoline on dry ground. Grocery stores would grow tense. People would frantically search flight trackers. Social media would violently split into warring tribes of fear, denial, and pure conspiracy. And of course, the global economy would react violently. When the world feels unsafe, money runs towards stability, right? Oil, defense stocks, and gold would just surge as investors panic over unverified rumors. It's driven by a brutal, simple logic. Absolutely nothing is stable when nuclear systems and cyber compromise share a headline. Adding to the sheer chaos of that market crash, the internet would be flooded with what we can call the misinformation pour. We're talking fake screenshots, AI-generated videos, and false insider accounts claiming to know the real truth. In a digital crisis like this, lies are cheap and highly convincing. It wouldn't just be a battle over military infrastructure anymore. It would become an all-out battle over what is real and what is fake. Finally, we reach Section 5, the invisible future of war. Power is now software, access, and trust. Let's say the immediate crisis passes. Even if the initial attack was just a fake trail, a deception meant to force a global overreaction, the aftermath would be massive. We'd see immediate demands for new cyber treaties, emergency global audits, and a monumental push to harden nuclear command networks against digital infiltration. Because once this specific fear is named and out in the open, it can never be unnamed. Power is no longer only metal, fire, and fuel. Power is software, access, trust, and timing. We are witnessing a monumental shift in how deterrence actually works. The strongest lesson here is that the nation that survives the next great crisis is the one that best protects its digital infrastructure. Nations that ignore cyber defense aren't just risking embarrassment, they are risking global instability on a scale we can barely fathom. In the age of cyber warfare, the line between peace and panic can be thinner than a password. This hits the nail on the head. The complex, highly advanced systems holding our modern world together are ultimately only as strong as the people, the networks, and the split-second decisions behind them. The next great crisis might not arrive with a blinding flash of light, but with a simple line of malicious code. So I leave you with this final thought to really chew on. Are we truly prepared for a future where the next great war is invisible, instant, and triggered by a single line of code? Asking these incredibly difficult, seemingly impossible questions is the only way we can actually prepare for the invisible battlefields of tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I encourage you to keep exploring this vital intersection of technology and global security.